Before we begin this morning prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. God, I woke up today already feeling behind. Not in hours or tasks, in stature, in strength, in whatever quiet measure I use when I scan the day ahead and silently ask, am I enough for this? The truth is, this morning, I don't feel like I am. I'm looking at things that feel too large for me. Conversations that require more wisdom than I carry, expectations that feel taller than I can reach, people who seem louder, faster, more certain, and somewhere in me, something small starts to shrink even more, hoping maybe, if I stay quiet, the world will be gentle. But you know better. You know I don't need to pretend to be big. I don't need to stretch into something I'm not. I don't need to fake a voice that commands space I haven't grown into. I just need somewhere safe to begin, a place to be held, covered, supported, while I slowly grow into who I'm becoming. I've spent too many mornings trying to start from strength I don't have. Too many mornings putting on armor that doesn't fit, reciting confidence I don't believe. I'm tired of that. This morning, I'm starting differently. I'm starting from small. I'm beginning from exactly where I am, not where I should be. And where I am, God is in need. Not of a boost, not of a stage, but of a shelter, of a God who doesn't shame the small, but protects it, who doesn't demand that I rise, but holds me in the rising. I don't need you to make me impressive. I need you to be the place I rest while I learn how to stand. You know the quiet ways my smallness shows, in the way I second-guess my words before I speak them, in the way I enter rooms with my eyes searching for where I don't belong, in the way I apologize without saying a word. You know how I carry my not-enoughness like a layer under my skin, and you never despise it. You never ask me to perform out of it. You simply offer yourself as covering, as presence, as the strength that holds the weight while I gather mine. Let this morning be a beginning, not of pretending I'm unshakable, but of becoming more deeply rooted in the truth that I don't have to be. I don't need to command the room. I don't need to have the loudest voice. I don't need to hold it all together. What I need is to be supported where I feel small, and that support doesn't always look like a miracle. Sometimes it looks like breath, like quiet, like stillness. Sometimes it's not the mountain moving, it's me realizing I don't have to climb it alone. So before I say yes to the demands of this day, I say yes to something smaller. I say yes to being held. I say yes to you being enough where I'm not. I say yes to hiding in the shelter of your newness until I find my footing again. I say yes to this being holy ground, not because I feel powerful, but because you're here, right here, not urging me to get bigger, but gently reminding me that even now, I'm not alone. God, there's something tender about waking up in weakness and still choosing to come to you. I could have hardened, I could have hidden, I could have dressed myself in noise and productivity, but instead, I came here, quiet and small, and you didn't turn away. You never do. There's a kind of strength in being this honest, a kind that doesn't shout or strive, but simply dares to remain, uncovered, unpolished, unguarded, and trusts that you will stay. And you sit with me here, not as a coach demanding I push through, but as a shelter who holds space while I breathe through the ache. You are not impatient with my vulnerability. You are not embarrassed by my trembling. You see it as holy. You welcome it as offering. And so this, today, is my act of courage, not pretending I'm tall, but asking you to be my covering while I grow. There are things today I can't control, conversations I may not be ready for, situations where I will feel too small, too quiet, too unsure, and part of me wants to avoid them entirely, to shrink back into what's safe. But I know you don't measure my growth by how loud I become or how much I dominate. You measure it by trust, by the way I let you be my steadiness when mine fails, by the way I choose to move forward without needing to feel large. So today I ask not to be made bigger, but to be protected in my smallness, to be wrapped in your grace when I feel invisible, to be held by your calm when I feel overshadowed, to know that even when I am not the strongest presence in the room, you are, and you are for me. There's a kind of pressure that comes when everything around me feels elevated. Expectations, demands, performances, voices, and I carry this internal question like a stone in my chest. Do I belong here? But you don't answer me with a resume or a mirror. You answer with presence, with this moment, this breath, this stillness, where I remember that belonging isn't something I have to prove. It's something you've already given. I belong not because I've earned space, but because you have called me worthy of it, even in the rooms where I feel behind, even in the moments where I feel like the least. You are not asking me to become someone else. You are offering to carry who I am. So let me walk into the day not with confidence that I am enough on my own, but with assurance that I am not on my own at all. Let me make peace with being in process. Let me trust that you are not just beside me in strength, but surrounding me in every tender place where I still feel small. Let that become a kind of anchor, that I can begin the day without needing to rise above it, without needing to meet the measure of others, without needing to force growth on a timeline. You never wrote, I can simply be held. And from that holding, I will rise in my own time, with roots, not with noise, with substance, not with speed. So support me here, God, in this exact place. Not someday when I'm more confident, not later when I become who I hope to be. Support me here, where I hesitate, where I feel like the background, where I struggle to find my voice. Let your nearness be the courage that lifts me gently, not by making me feel large, but by showing me I don't have to be, not yet. Maybe not ever in the way the world defines it, but in you, even the smallest parts of me are worth protecting. And that's how I want to live this day. Not tall, not loud, but covered, held, rooted in a love that doesn't ask me to fake anything, only to trust that being small in the arms of a faithful God, the deeper I lean into this stillness, the more I realize how much I've misunderstood strength. I've been taught to see it in volume, in confidence, in fast answers and firm handshakes. But that version has always left me exhausted. I've tried to wear it like a borrowed jacket, always a little too big, always slipping off my shoulders. I've tried to speak louder, walk quicker, know more, and still the hollowness stayed. But what you're showing me now is something softer, something slower, something truer. That real strength begins in surrender. That quiet people can carry deep courage. That trembling hands can still hold purpose. That feeling small doesn't disqualify me from the journey. It qualifies me for your presence. Because you don't ask me to be fearless to be close to you. You don't ask me to feel capable before you draw near. You move toward the ones who admit they're in over their heads. You come closer when I whisper instead of shout. You stay when I pause and say, I can't do this without you. And that's what I'm saying now. Not as a failure, not as a last resort, but as a choice. The holy human choice. To be honest. To admit that the world feels too big today. That I still compare myself to people who walk more confidently, speak more fluently, know more quickly. That I still look around and wonder how they do it. How they seem to carry so much without flinching. And in that wondering, I forget I'm not called to carry like them. I'm called to be carried by you. So help me, God, to stop measuring myself against what I was never meant to mimic. Help me to stop thinking I'm behind when I'm really just growing deep. Help me to stop apologizing for where I'm still becoming. Help me to find joy in the hiddenness, in the slow formation, in the quiet places where you are shaping me, not for applause, but for resilience. Let me not resent the process. Let me not despise the space between who I was and who I'm becoming. Let me bring you even this middle ground, this in-between, this soft ache of knowing I'm not yet what I hope to be, and yet already so deeply loved. And as I walk into today, don't let me forget that your support doesn't depend on my confidence. It flows from your character. You're the kind of God who strengthens not by demanding more, but by offering more yourself. You become the shade when the sun is too much, the whisper when the noise is unbearable, the calm when the room feels too loud. You don't lift me up by yelling, "Be strong." You lift me by sitting down with me in the smallness until the smallness doesn't feel scary anymore. Let that be the kind of day I live, one where I stop apologizing for needing shelter, one where I stop waiting to feel enough before I act, one where I press forward not because I've finally gathered strength, but because you've promised to walk with me in the places where I have none. Let me choose presence over posturing. Let me choose honesty over performance. Let me choose the kind of courage that trusts being held is not weakness, it's wisdom. So here I am again, God, not climbing, not shouting, not fixing, just opening, just breathing, just saying yes to being loved here, yes to being carried here, yes to being supported where I feel small. God, I'm starting to see that smallness doesn't mean insignificance. It doesn't mean weakness in the way the world defines it. It means room for Sue to enter, room for something real to begin, room for trust to grow where pride used to live. And maybe that's the very place where transformation takes root, not in the moments where I feel tall and put together, but in the ones where I admit I need more than I can bring, where I stop holding my breath and let myself be held, where I stop stretching to reach what's out of view and let you lift me in your time, your way, your wisdom. There is a kind of miracle that happens when I stop fighting my size, when I stop trying to inflate myself just to survive the day, when I stop trying to fit into rooms where I was never asked to impress, only to be present. I've spent so long interpreting discomfort as a reason to panic, but maybe it's actually a space you're inviting me to inhabit gently. Maybe these bigger-than-me moments aren't meant to expose my inadequacy, but to reveal your capacity. Maybe when I stand where I feel too small, it's because you're about to become bigger in me than I've allowed before. And still, it's hard, because people expect performance. Environments expect polish. Timelines expect speed. But you expect honesty, soft eyes, a willing heart, a spirit that says, even here, and still trust the answer is yes. Even here, you will support me. Even here, you will defend the space I'm still growing into. So I stop asking you to make me loud in loud rooms, and I start asking you to give me the courage to be quiet and still know I'm held. I stop asking you to give me dominance in places of pressure, and I start asking you to give me presence that holds steady, even if no one claps. That's the kind of strength I want, not the kind that overpowers, the kind that endures, not the kind that controls, the kind that's rooted in trust. I no longer want to start my days asking how to show up stronger. I want to ask how to show up truer, with less armor, with more softness, with the kind of faith that can stand in a shadow and still believe I'm seen, because I am, because you see differently. You see the becoming underneath the smallness. You see the resilience in the quiet ones. You see the yes behind the trembling. You see the gold in the soil that hasn't bloomed yet. And you stay. You wait. You speak softly, so I don't have to strain. You build slowly, so nothing is rushed. You cover what's delicate until it's ready to stand in the light. So support me here again, God, in this quiet, in this morning, in this unfolding. I don't want to fake progress. I want to grow slow and honest. I want to be held where I don't yet stand tall. I want to feel you wrap around the places I don't yet trust, not to shame them into maturity, but to protect them until they're ready. Teach me to see shelter, not as weakness, but as wisdom. Teach me to see dependence, not as failure, but as the foundation of true strength. Teach me to love this part of the story, the early stretch of becoming, not just the chapters where I'm standing tall, but the ones where I'm learning how. And as I carry this prayer into the day, let it remain with me like a quiet echo. Let it speak louder than the voices that measure me by outcomes. Let it hush the pressure to rush. Let it slow my breath when the world speeds up. Let it remind me that I have nothing to prove to be supported, that I don't need to qualify for your nearness, that I can walk into the hardest rooms with shaky legs and still be entirely held, that I can stay small and still be completely secure, because you are not asking me to grow faster. You're asking me to stay near. God, as this morning unfolds and the world begins to lean into its noise and momentum, I pause here one last time, not to rehearse my worries again, not to beg for more strength, but simply to be with you in this final moment of stillness before I begin to move. And the truth is, something in me has shifted. Not everything, not dramatically, but deeply. I don't feel bigger, and I don't need to. I feel steady, not because I've conjured something new inside myself, but because I've remembered something eternal. You are my shelter, my support, my safe place to be, small, without fear of being swallowed by it. The world has its own measures of success. It gives its crowns to the loudest, the fastest, the most certain. But you, God, you crown the quiet with dignity. You clothe the uncertain with grace. You lift up those who sit low, not because they know how to rise, but because they know how to reach. I want to be that person. I want to go into this day reaching not for power, not for praise, but for presence. Reaching for the assurance that you're beside me. Reaching for stillness in moments of pressure. Reaching for peace that doesn't depend on me feeling tall. I don't have to conquer this day. I don't have to outperform the version of me that lives in someone else's imagination. I don't have to earn the right to be here. I only have to walk with you. That is the only requirement, and with you walking beside me, I can carry what I do have, my softness, my honesty, my quiet persistence, and know that it's enough. I can look at the things that feel bigger than me and not shrink in shame, but pause in sacred trust. I don't need to be the biggest force in the room, because I am already carried by the one who holds everything together. Let me walk into spaces today, not trying to take them over, but to bring something true into them, a groundedness, a calm, a quiet confidence rooted not in dominance, but in belonging. Let me remember that when I feel small, it is not always a problem to be solved. Sometimes it's a truth to be honored. A reminder that I was never meant to carry this all alone. A prompt to lean back into the strength that doesn't originate from me, but flows through me when I stop resisting support. So, as I step now into the movement of the morning, I don't take a deep breath because I'm ready to push through. I take it because I know I'm not walking forward without help, and that breath is sacred. It's the exhale of pressure, the inhale of presence. It's the silent prayer that says, be with me again. Be near when I'm unsure. Be my shelter when I feel exposed. And it's enough, not because I feel ready, but because you support me today in the quiet moments where I doubt. Support me when the meeting begins and I don't feel prepared. Support me when I look at others and forget what you've given me. Support me when I'm too tired to inspire, too human to impress. Support me with your nearness, not as a shield that makes me untouchable, but as a presence that makes me unshakable in spirit. Support me not by making me louder, but by helping me to trust that I don't need to. Because I know now, being small does not mean being empty. It means being open. It means being reachable. It means being available to the kind of strength that doesn't show up in headlines or applause, but in quiet steps and faithful breath. It means learning to stand in the middle of what feels too much and still trust you are enough. And that is where I finish this prayer, not with a sense of arrival, but with the peace of being held mid-journey. Not with certainty about what's coming, but with a sacred knowing that wherever I feel small, I will not be abandoned. Wherever I feel outmatched, you will be my shelter. And wherever I feel slow to grow, you will be my patient companion. God, I'm still here, not because I don't want to move forward, but because I want to carry this posture with me, not just visit it in quiet moments. This has become more than a prayer now. It's a new way of standing, not taller, not louder, but more rooted, more honest. And as I linger in this space a little longer, I ask you to make this awareness durable. Let it last beyond the last word. Let it settle into my body like memory, the kind that stays even when the noise returns, even when I find myself again in places where I feel smaller than what's being asked of me. Because those moments will come, the rooms where my voice trembles, the tasks that outpace my readiness, the looks that trigger the old ache. Am I enough? And when they do, I don't want to fall back into old habits of striving or shrinking. I want to return here to this breath, this presence, this partnership. You didn't just support me in the stillness. You promised to walk with me through everything that comes next. And I believe you. Even if my knees shake, even if my words falter, even if I forget for a moment who I am, I believe you'll stay. So today, I will move forward, not because I feel bigger than my challenges, but because I no longer confuse feeling small with being alone. There is no shame in needing support. There is no shame in saying, I'm still learning. The world might not always make room for slow growth, but you do. You delight in it. You don't rush what is sacred. You don't measure me by speed or scale. You measure me by trust, by softness, by whether or not I stay open long enough to let you carry me through what I cannot yet carry myself. And that's what I'm doing now, letting you carry what I can't, letting you defend what I can't explain, letting you hold what I still don't understand, letting you be my protection in rooms I don't yet feel ready for, letting you whisper peace into spaces that once made me feel like I had to perform just to belong. I am not performing today. I am living as I am. Small, maybe, but not invisible. Soft, maybe, but not without power. Held, certainly, and that is more than enough. So when I walk through the day ahead and feel the tug to prove something, remind me I don't have to. When I feel the weight of expectations I can't live up to, remind me that you've never asked me to. When I feel behind, unheard, unseen, remind me that I've never left your side, that even in the smallest places of me, your support remains intact, unwavering, always near. Let this be the rhythm of my life, not a rise to dominance, but a deepening into presence, not a chase for recognition, but a settling into truth. Not a fight to grow faster, but a choice to stay open, trusting that the God who supports me now will support me again tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day I feel too small to stand on my own. That is enough for today. I don't need to become anything more. I just need to remain here, honest and open, and know that I am not walking unsupported. You are my safe place. You are my steady hand. You are the quiet lift beneath the places I can't yet reach. And I'll move forward, not out of striving, but because you've made it safe to. Not because I am ready, but because you are with me. God, and if I've learned anything in this stretch of stillness with you, it's that growth doesn't always feel like rising. Sometimes it feels like being held still long enough to breathe again. Sometimes it looks like standing in the same uncertain place, but not being afraid of it anymore. Sometimes it's not a breakthrough, it's a quiet resolve. I don't have to rush. I don't have to prove. I don't have to be big today. I only have to stay open and stay near you. And somehow, that is already more change than most people will ever see. I woke up with smallness on my shoulders, but now I see it differently. It's no longer shame, it's soil. It's not a failure to overcome. It's the ground in which something sacred can take root. The things I thought made me unqualified, the hesitations, the soft voice, the unpolished questions. These are not obstacles. They are openings. You don't look for polish, you look for permission. And I give it to you now, God, permission to grow something inside me at a pace that won't destroy me. Permission to support me in ways I can't yet articulate. Permission to come into the spaces where I feel behind and build something I couldn't have built alone. I won't pretend the day ahead doesn't intimidate me. It does. There are still conversations I dread, expectations I can't meet, internal narratives I haven't fully unlearned. But I don't need to solve all of that to begin. I just need to bring it with me and walk anyway. Walk slowly. Walk quietly. Walk like someone who knows they're not the only one responsible for what unfolds. You're with me in every step. You're not watching from a distance. You're not evaluating my posture. You're holding the weight of what I don't yet have strength to carry. You're protecting the parts of me still learning to be seen. So I'm walking forward with room to be human, room to stumble, room to pause without punishment, room to be unsure and still worthy of support, because that's what you offer. Over and over, not just the strength to succeed, but the covering to begin to try, to take one small faithful step when I don't know what the second will be. And that step is all you ask for, not because you need my movement, but because you know what it does to a soul to walk with trust instead of pressure, to walk without pretending to be tall. Let this whole day be marked by that trust. Let it show up in the way I listen, unhurried, in the way I answer, unhardened, in the way I show up to spaces where I used to shrink, not trying to dominate them, just refusing to disappear. Let this be the beginning of a new kind of confidence, one that doesn't rely on charisma or command, but on companionship. Confidence that doesn't say, "Look at me," but breathes, "God is with me." And if I lose this rhythm, if I get swept into the currents of proving and pretending, be my reminder. Be the soft interruption that brings me back. Whisper to me when I go quiet in rooms where I used to sing. Nudge me gently when I speak too fast, just to sound sure. Let me find you again and again, not waiting at the finish line, but walking the whole road beside me, holding my silence, holding my softness, holding the weight I still don't name aloud. Because I know now, the places where I feel small are not signs of my failure. They're invitations to trust, to stay close, to let you be what I can't, and to walk anyway. Slowly, honestly,